Welcome back, everybody. My name is Tucker, and in today's video, we are now doing the Eastern Conference NBA season preview. Earlier today, I did the Western Conference, if you missed that, and in this video, we will be doing the East. I'm going to be talking about teams that I have completely out of the playoffs, teams that I think are in contention, who my top 8 are making the playoffs, who I think is going to make the conference finals, and who I think is going to represent the Eastern Conference in the NBA Finals. This is a very interesting conference this year, especially at the back half of the playoff picture. There's a lot of movers and shakers, and that top 6 is very, very solid as well. So a lot of things to take a look at here in the East. But really quickly before we get started, if you enjoy content like this, then consider subscribing. I upload twice a day, every day, and it is a great place for consistent NBA content. You can also leave a like rating on the video as well. Helps me out a ton, lets me know that you're enjoying the content, and helps it get out to more people on YouTube as well. And you can hang out with me at various socials at the bottom of the screen and a link tree down in the description below. But with those things said, we'll go ahead and talk about teams that I have 100% out of the playoffs for this upcoming season in the Eastern Conference. You've got your top 8, you've got teams kind of on the outside looking in, potential play-in teams, and then you've got those teams on the outside. In this case, it's 5 teams, and I begin with the New York Knicks. There's talent on this roster. You've got RJ Barrett, you've got Mitchell Robinson, Obi Toppin looks like a potential Rookie of the Year candidate, but outside of that, there's not a whole lot going on for this group. I think they're a year or two away. They've got big free agency plans in the summer of 2021, and they're on the correct path with multiple first-round picks in the 2021 NBA draft that they can potentially make some moves, either be free agency, trades, or just drafting more young talent. They're in the right direction, but they're not going to make the playoffs this year, in my opinion. Next up, the Orlando Magic, a playoff team a year ago, but without Jonathan Isaac on the roster, I don't think that they have enough talent. Vucevic and Gordon are fine. Maybe Markelle Fultz and Cole Anthony are the young guards that this team needs, but without Jonathan Isaac on the floor, I don't think that they're a playoff team, and they're definitely in kind of a weird situation moving forward because they have to pay Isaac without knowing, if he's going to be healthy or not moving forward. So we'll have to kind of wait and see on Orlando, but I don't have them in the playoffs or even on the outside looking into the playoffs for this upcoming season. Next up, the Detroit Pistons. I don't think I need to explain this one that much. They just aren't all that good of a team. They don't have a ton of talent, especially younger talent. The only scenario in which they make the postseason this year is if Blake is like an all-NBA caliber guy again. Killian Hayes is awesome as a rookie. Derrick Rose is really good. Jeremy Grant is awesome. That's really the only scenario. I don't think that's all that likely. I think they're on the outside looking in the East. Next up, the Cleveland Cavaliers. Again, just not all that talented of a team. They've got some nice young guys. They're starting to figure it out a little bit. Maybe there's a Kevin Love trade in the mix here. Kevin Love is really good for them. Who knows? But for me, I don't have them in the playoffs. And then a team that is close to being on the outside looking in, but I don't have them in that category yet, is the Charlotte Hornets. They made some moves this offseason to potentially make themselves a playoff team. Drafting LaMelo Ball, who at times has looked good in the preseason. Signing Gordon Hayward are huge contract. There's even potentially a trade to be made here with this group as well. And they've got some talent. Terry Rozier, Devontae Graham, LaMelo Ball, Gordon Hayward, PJ Washington, Miles Bridges. But right now, there's just too many good teams in the East. And I know that's a weird thing to say, but the talent in this conference is really stepping up, especially as you're looking from like the 1 through 10 spots. It's not just so easy to say, oh, this team could sneak into the 8th seed anymore. It's actually a pretty deep conference. And unfortunately, Charlotte just is not able to leapfrog any of the teams in front of them. At the 10th spot now, these are officially teams that I could see making the playoffs. It's not unlikely they're on the outside looking in, is the Chicago Bulls. It kind of depends on how much of a difference having Billy Donovan as their coach rather than Jim Boylen makes. It depends on if they take any steps forward defensively, how good Patrick Williams is for them. They certainly have a talented rotation and a rotation with a ton of top 10 picks, a ton of young guys, even a veteran like Otto Porter Jr. in there as well, Thaddeus Young. They have the talent to make the postseason, but I just think there's better teams, more complete teams in the East ahead of them. But there's also a possibility that they end up making a trade here with these younger pieces that pushes them all the way into the playoffs. For me, I do have them out right now. At the 9 spot now, this is part of my bold prediction that I made a week ago, maybe at this point. The Indiana Pacers are the 9th seed in the Eastern Conference for me. I don't have them in the playoffs, and it's not necessarily a talent thing. I just think there's a lot of upheaval on this roster. There's a lot of issues, whether that be Oladipo wanting to be there or not, Oladipo being hurt or healthy. There's a lot up in the air for me. How does the Sabonis Turner thing fit? They've got a new coach, and I'm just going to default to them being the team that misses the playoffs from last year, them and Orlando, to make space for 2 other teams that really improved this offseason. It's not that Indiana necessarily got worse. It's just the Oladipo thing hangs over their head, and there's just a lot of uncertainty for me personally, so I have them at 9 in what's probably a bit of a surprise. At the 8th seed now, I have the Atlanta Hawks making the playoffs. Brought in a ton of good players this offseason, obviously, namely Danilo Gallinari. and Bogdan Bogdanovic, but Chris Dunn and Rajon Rondo should provide them some nice defense in the backcourt as well. And if any of their young players step up, they definitely have the talent to be a postseason team. Cam Reddish, DeAndre Hunter, Kevin Huerter. They've got Clint Capella, who's not a young player, but is still really good. They've got their new draft pick. I think that this is a playoff team. They're complete. As long as guys step up, they have a player for every single role on this roster. Trae Young should be awesome once again. And if it doesn't happen this year and they don't make the playoffs, then we really need to call into question how good these young guys actually are, how good Trae Young actually is, and how much he actually drives winning, because this is a playoff caliber roster, so they need to make it happen this year. Next up, at the 7th seed, I have the new and improved Washington Wizards. Got rid of John Wall, brought in Russell Westbrook, and I think that move alone is going to be enough to push this team into the postseason. As long as Westbrook and Beal are both healthy, it's a playoff team. Then you've also got Davis Bertans as well, who can really shoot the basketball, of course. Thomas Bryant is an interesting young player. Denny looked pretty good in the preseason. They have some pieces here that they can definitely work with, and I would be excited if I was a Wizards fan this year, looking forward to a potential postseason berth, and right now I have them at the 7th seed. Next up, Mike had some heat for this one. The Toronto Raptors. I have them at the 6th seed, and it's not necessarily anything that they did wrong. You could argue they got slightly worse. I just think there's a lot of really good teams in the East this year, and I just like the 5 ahead of them right now that I have ahead in the standings. Kyle Lowry should still be good. Pascal Siakam should still be good. Fred VanVleet's coming back. But I don't know what it is about the Raptors. I just don't have a good feeling. I don't think that they're as talented as the other 5 teams in front of them. It's really just that simple. Number 5 now is a team that could change drastically here within the next week or 2 weeks, and it's the Philadelphia 76ers. I think they're the 5th best team in the East right now, but if they make a James Harden trade, especially if that trade does not involve Ben Simmons, they're immediately a contender in the Eastern Conference. They're arguably one already, but they would be in a top 3 conversation for me if they made a move like that. Even if they don't, they've got pieces that fit better together now. They've got the shooting of Seth Curry. Tobias Harris might have a bit of a rehab year. They've got Ben Simmons. They've got Joel Embiid. They have plenty of options and plenty of talent. They should be a very good playoff team, assuming everybody is healthy. And I've got them at the 5 spot in a matchup that probably a lot of teams don't want to face in the first round of the Eastern Conference playoffs. At number 4, I've got the Brooklyn Nets, another team that could change drastically. They could easily be like the 7th seed this year if KD or Kyrie miss significant time. There's also a trade to be made here potentially as well for the Nets. If they bring in James Harden, that changes things. If they don't, I still think they have plenty of versatility and plenty of options. I would like to see a little bit more defense on this roster, but even as it's currently constructed, I think the Nets are a top 4 team, assuming that they are healthy. Next up now, the Miami Heat, I have at the 3rd seed. Definitely a team that were underestimated going into the postseason last year, represented the Eastern Conference in the finals. They did get a little bit worse in certain spots. Guys like Jay Crowder are no longer there. They're still definitely planning on 2021 free agency being a big part of their plan. If there's a Harden trade potentially in the works here, then that obviously changes things as well. But right now with this current group, with the togetherness, with the camaraderie they showed last year, the belief they now have in themselves after making the finals, I have them as a top 3 team in the Eastern Conference. At number 2, I have the Boston Celtics, and I really struggled with where to put them. And honestly, I think when you're looking at the 2 through 6 spot in the East, you could order these teams in any order you want to, and I think it would make sense. I could see, Toronto continue to be a surprise team, and they're all the way up to 2. I could see Boston struggling without, some of their other options. Maybe Kemba's not healthy, Gordon Hayward's gone. Maybe they slide all the way down to 5. The Nets being 2. I could see any combination here. But I feel like the safe pick is to put Boston at 2 because they have Jaylen Brown, they have Jason Tatum, assuming Kemba's healthy. Those guys are going to be really good. They brought in Jeff Teague, Tristan Thompson, players that will definitely help in their rotation. They still have Marcus Smart. Still a very talented team, still a team that works well together. Brad Stevens, one of the better coaches in the league, and I believe in the Celtics as the 2 seed. At the number 1 seed, though, I have the Milwaukee Bucks. Say what you want about the things hanging over this team potentially with Giannis and everything, but adding Jrue Holiday to this roster is huge. They've got depth. They've got a great starting 5, and I think that this is going to be a team to be scared of this year in the Eastern Conference once again. If we were playing a normal 82-game schedule, I would say they'd be a threat to win 60 games, but I guess now it'd be a threat to win 50 games with a 72-game schedule. I think they're the best team in the Eastern Conference going into this season. So with those things said, the conference finals matchup is not as plain as it was in the West. I just said the 2 LA teams in the West, and that was the end of it. I still think Milwaukee's going to make the conference finals. Apart from that, you could literally pick any team that's either the Boston Celtics, Miami Heat, Brooklyn Nets, Philadelphia 76ers, or Toronto Raptors. And if you wanted to tell me they were in the conference finals, I would believe you. If I had to order it in terms of the likelihood that they make the conference finals, I would order it in the way that I did in these standings here: Celtics, Heat, Nets, Sixers, Raptors. If you're asking me to make a 100% prediction, though, this is going to sound like a homer pick. As long as they're healthy, I think the Nets could make the conference finals. And that would be my official prediction, assuming that they're healthy. But that also, again, it could be a complete disaster. I think they're the highest upside team outside of Milwaukee in this conference, and so that would be my prediction. There's no other award races to predict here because I already predicted in the previous video that Luka would win the MVP out in the West, but that's going to be the end of my Eastern Conference season preview for the NBA for this upcoming season. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Thank you all very much for watching. Once again, my name is Tucker. If you missed any of my previous videos, be sure to check out the boxes on screen. Hope you guys have an awesome rest of your day, and I will see you all next time.